Hello, this very good afternoon from the ASO Central Secretariat in Nairobi, but we also consider the time differences. We want to say good evening, we want to say good morning, and maybe if it's a late night, we want to say also the issue of good night, but not yet. But on behalf of our Secretary General, Dr. Hemojin Sengemana, we wish to take this opportunity to welcome you to the 58th session of the ASO monthly webinar series that we are privileged to host once again as the ASO Central Secretariat on behalf of our ASO member states and on the theme of regulatory environment for electricity markets in Africa. The topic being facilitating intra-African trade in electricity through regional power pools and electricity markets, the potential opportunities, challenges, and role of electrotechnical standards. Our host is the ASO Secretary General, Dr. Hemojin Sengemana, but on his behalf, the Central Secretariat, as represented by myself, will be doing it as the Secretary General is having engagements currently with the Southern Sudan government officials on the issues of their national polity infrastructure. So we also have the privilege to have these webinar sessions also live streamed by the Association of African Universities, the AAU, and we have been doing this with them for long. So we have the opportunity today to have the panelists as highlighted. We have Mr. Ruben Gisore, the ASO Technical Director, who will talk to us about promoting an integrated and interconnected continental market for electricity in Africa and the associated common regulatory frameworks required. And then we have Engineer Marwa El-Beshri from AFSEC as AFSEC Senior Administrator. Also discussing and engaging us on harmonizing regulatory frameworks and promoting an integrated, interconnected continental market for electricity in Africa. And also we have Juane Martin Copper, engineer, it's a middle manager in the systems operations and planning at ESCOM, and also by extension, the South African Power Pool, and talking to us about electricity for Africa, facilitating trade in electricity and optimizing generation and flow, and the role of these regional power pools like South Africa Power Pool, the SAP, and the regulatory issues. And finally, we have Mr. Sheu Abraham Khalil, Senior Energy Policy and Strategy Expert from African Union Commission or at the African Union Commission. And we are privileged to have an opportunity to hear from the apex body of our continent with terms of policy initiatives. And in this case, for the electricity sector, we have the topic towards the African Single Electricity Market, the AFSEM, and the regional regulatory strengthening admission 300 and CMP alignments. So these are the panelists that we have for today, and we are glad that the participants have joined and they are continuing joining. Very quickly, the ASO Central Secretariat normally gives some highlights on, just allow me for a minute to sort out something here. It's okay. Confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, Mr. Philip, we can hear you. Proceed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Normally the Central Secretariat highlights some background information on the theme and also on the topic under the sub-themes. As you are aware, we highlight the fact that access to reliable and affordable and sustainable energy is unreliable electricity supply for household industries internationally, as per the 2030 SDGs, a universal goal and energy policy priority, given the role that electrification plays in sustainable development. For the case of Africa, you realize that this has not been the case, as 640 million of African population still are facing low electricity connection and supplies. The challenge of insufficient electricity generation coupled with inadequate, poorly maintained transmission and distribution networks normally is a challenge. But it is also highlighted that Africa has tremendous opportunity for generation, and this has remained a policy concern. And as you will see, and that's why the African Union's presentation will be also important for us in terms of presenting what is happening in terms of policy. So our capacity still remains at 3% of the global capacity. But given the issues of industrialization, rising household incomes, climate change mitigation policies, you realize that the need for electricity continues to double in Africa. Hence, the need for electricity trade among the regional power pools that we have. And already the Agenda 2063 is giving us the opportunity to realize this, and for Africa to achieve its full access to electricity by 2030, the annual connection should be targeting 60 million. Then you realize that the African policymakers and the involved stakeholders have been on this strategy of increasing the electricity flow in Africa since the 1960s, and this has been taken in 3 waves. The first wave, 1960s and 1990s, focusing on extending centralized national electricity grids. The second wave, 90s to the 2010s, focused on expanding public sector mid-grids to reach rural and remote areas. You realize the issues of rural electrification agencies, responsibilities, and focus on the rural electrifications. And then also a third wave over the last decade that has gone 2030, 2020 is where we are right now, where we are also prioritizing the renewable energy to consolidate or also to work alongside the generations that we have. And you will note that with the third wave, and within the context of Agenda 2063 and FCFT opportunities to enhance the electricity production, market, and trade in Africa, there have been institutions at the continental level that has been taxed and led by the African Union, the AUDA, NEPAD, the FDP, AFREC, UNECA, the AFUA and AFUA, AFSEC, and UNIDO. And at the same time, we have at the regional level, there have been initiatives taking place like the power pools, regional regulatory bodies, the regional regulatory associations, regional renewable energy and energy efficiency to facilitate this process. But at the same time, the African Union and the AUDA NEPAD, the institutions that are responsible at the continental level, has been developing frameworks to ensure that this happens. The two of these are African Single Electricity Market and the Continental Power System Master Plan that we will see. So generally, this has been the role and the responsibilities of these continental bodies led by the African Union, the AUDA NEPAD, the FDB, and the FDB has been very committed to this. You remember their program of Power Africa, then African Development Bank, the FDB, then African Energy Commission, AFREC, the UNECA in terms of policies and the research that they continue doing, the African Utility regulators, the African Forum for Utility Regulators, Association of Power Utilities in Africa, that also works with the AFSEC. And you remember also the UPDEA distributors of electricity in Africa. And of course, the Electrotechnical Standardization Commission of Africa, AFSEC, which has also been working under PACI and also working with ASO in terms of standards harmonization or electrotechnical standards harmonization. At the regional level, we have the issues of the power pools that have come and which are also helping in promoting these initiatives that already we have. And in all corners of Africa, right now we have 5, the Central African Power Pool, and the countries that are members are highlighted. And then you can see their work is to promote cooperation and integration efforts on generation and trade in this electricity. The Maghreb Electricity Committee, the COMELEC, then we have the East African Power Pool that we have the members as also highlighted. So within the regional economic communities, there has been progress. And of course, the South African Power Pool, which by far the most advanced electricity market on the continent currently. Then the West African Power Pool, all these power pools doing their work in terms of regulations, in terms of generations, but as much as they are doing their efforts or making their efforts, we have their benefits in terms of significant savings in capital, the improved utility operations, performance, enhanced bankability, and increased regional cooperations. But challenges also are there, and chief of them are regulatory incompatibility in terms of the nations themselves, because you realize that also, like in multi-membership in REX with the different countries, it also applies in this case. But the other issues of bundled utility markets, proving market bankability, and over-reliance on anchors are issues. We are glad that UNIDO has also taken very big initiatives in creating renewable energy and energy efficiency regional centers, the RCREE, which are also helping in the issues of facilitating the electrification of the African continent for the sake of industrialization and sustainable development. And in this case, these are the centers that currently UNIDO is working with, the ECOWAS Center. We have the Regional Center for Renewable Energy Efficiency, Middle East, and then also the SADC Center for Renewable Energy. We have the East African Community Center and the Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency for Central Africa. So these are efforts that have been going on both at the national, regional, continental, and also at policy level with institutions like UNIDO, UNECA taking the role. And as we highlighted the issues of policy, where the African Union and heads of states, the African leadership taking electricity issues seriously and coming up with such frameworks like AFSEM and the SMP, which was just endorsed last year. And I think this one helped us to understand the seriousness of the African leadership, because it was since 1960s up to now, 2024, we continue to work on the electrification for Africa. The AFSEM aims to establish a comprehensive marketplace for electricity throughout Africa. Then the CMP represents a strategic blueprint for enhancing and modernizing Africa power systems. So these blueprints that are recently developed and currently also being implemented through the AUDA NEPAD are also blueprints that have been taking place since 1960s. And you can see since 2019, 2021, 22, 2024, and 25 recently, there are efforts and initiatives going on. And this is just the masterpiece about the AFSEM and the CM, harmonizing and integration, increased access and affordability, the economic growth, renewable energy focus, and continental market, the continental masterpiece alignment. We have this data of what is happening and the increases that we expect by 2040. So we need to continue with the pace that we are doing right now so that we meet the demands of electricity in Africa. We have the FCFTA, and the FCFTA present us with opportunity, and mostly the opportunity to harmonize regulatory frameworks, integrating generation, transmission, and distribution master plans, and aligning with global agreements like Paris Climate. Already we have a proposed framework that involves coordinating technical and commercial efforts of regional power pools to harness opportunities presented by the FCFTA. And in this regard, integrating electricity markets will be at the lower cost and improve energy security while enabling better management and the issues of renewable energy. And we already have the protocols of the FCFTA, which are guiding us in all this. So the priorities are highlighted that prioritize the development of electricity markets under the FCFTA, leverage climate finance, the issues of access to business case for establishing regional electricity market operators. Then the ASO and AFSEC, the standardization, since we need a common regulatory framework, have also been onboarding in this case, and in this case, harmonizing standards, developing standards, conformity assessment issues, and as you can see, AFSEC has got its mission clearly cut. Everything to do with electricity standards, AFSEC is addressing, and ASO, through different ASO technical harmonization committees, is also harmonizing and developing standards in the electronic systems. So the objective of the webinar today is offer us opportunity to discuss the current happenings within the electricity and electrification generations in Africa with those specific objectives. Thank you very much. We wanted to highlight that. Our host is Dr. Hemogene Sengemana, the Secretary General, but I'm doing so on his behalf, and we are privileged to have you participating. Today, we want to start our plenary session, and our plenary session, the first panelist will be Mr. Ruben Gisore, the ASO Technical Director, who will be speaking to us on the issue of promoting integrated and interconnected continental market for electricity in Africa, for Africa's sustainable and inclusive industrial and development. Then we highlight Mr. Ruben Gisore, currently since 2012, the ASO Technical Director, and is responsible for coordinating technical programs with regards to standards harmonization and conformity assessment and resources mobilization. Ruben is highly experienced on quality infrastructure issues and has contributed to many of the ASO standardization and conformity assessment continental policy documents and guiding the implementation of the ASO mandate. Prior to joining ASO, Ruben worked with the Kenya Bureau of Standards since 1997, standards officer, and also had a very clear role and responsible role within East African community and the common market for Africa, that is COMESA, in formulation of the East African Standardization Quality Assurance Methodology Act 2006, and also the COMESA policy and standardization policy, and has been participating in these activities. He holds a degree in electrical engineering and also currently pursuing his PhD. So with that, I will give the floor for this plenary session to be started, and the first panelist will be Mr. Ruben Gisore. Thank you, Ruben, and have the floor, please.
Thank you, Philip. If Dan, you can allow me to share. Thank you for the introduction, and much appreciated. Also, the coverage that you have given in terms of the background information, which more or less makes my work very easy, so that I don't have to repeat the same information. My area will be basically looking at the regulatory aspects and the reason we need to promote an integrated market in the continent. Just as an introduction, I think I'll not go so much into this. The members of ARSO are indicated, mapped against the current accession or ratification of the AFCFTA, which, if you look at it, makes the continent one of the biggest common market or an integrated market in the world. We are doing this as ARSO. Yes, this is an intergovernmental organization established in 1977. The purpose for which is to promote and coordinate standardization in the continent. But I would want to draw your attention to the mandate given as D, which is to encourage and facilitate development of AU member states of technical regulations based on African harmonized standards or in the international standards. Essentially being that in the electricity market, there are lots of technical regulations. The standards mostly are also mandatory. Now, in our mandate, we have currently 17 sectors that we harmonize standards in. And in our arrangement of the sectors, this is sector number 6, which deals with electrotechnology. But as you have been told again, is that we have the African Electrotechnical Standards Commission, which we work with. Yeah. Yep.
You're supposed to share screen to stop sharing. Stop sharing.
Not moving.
It's control. So
This is the one.
it's showing that it's supposed to be this one.
The presentation is this one.
Take over here.
What is the problem?
Stop share. Share again. So it's control.
Okay. All right, just a technical hitch. Sorry for that. So this is sector 6, as I mentioned. But in this case, what we are doing is closely working with our colleagues from the African Electrotechnical Standards Commission, AFSEC. So coming to the sector, the status of electricity generation in the continent, you realize that currently only 58% of the population has access. As of 2023, the population that had access was 58%, but that is not a uniform kind of access in the continent. You also notice that over 640 million people do not have access to electricity in the continent. And when you find that number doesn't have access to electricity, you can also imagine the number of things that they cannot do, because without electricity, there are quite a number of things you cannot do. At the global level, we only produce about 5.7% of the world's energy. That is in 2023. And the increase will be just 6.8 by 2050 if we are not going to change and look at this perspective in a concerted way. We have a lot of initiatives in the continent, but these initiatives have not really borne fruit. For instance, there is a talk of having the Inga Dam expanded, but it's only that the discussions have never really borne fruit, so that we can have a generation that is enough to be distributed across the continent. In the rural areas, it is worse. You find that only 19% of the population has electricity. We have a lot of initiatives going on, like the last mile initiatives that are being done across the continent, but still, a lot of people do not have access to that, to electricity. When it comes to usage, there are disparities across the continent. The global average is 2,846 kilowatt hours annually. But when you look at the continent, the only countries that match that is probably South Africa. We have Libya that are beyond the 2,846. The rest, even if you look at the way the map showed that some countries have a high access, is that the usage is very low. That is because the distribution is not uniform. And sometimes that distribution, even when you see the conductors overhead, it doesn't actually mean that people have access to that electricity. So that is why you find that even countries which show a very high level of access, the consumption is very low. What does that mean when in practical terms? It means that we need, that electricity for development, but because of low access, people are not developing. The access enables the use of modern technologies, improves education outcomes, enhances healthcare services, and supports the growth of businesses. Now, when businesses cannot get this electricity, or when you have outages, which occur in quite a number of countries, it means the businesses make losses. The businesses cannot open for long hours. The businesses cannot process what they were supposed to process profitably. The electricity access supports everyday processes such as water purification or mobile banking, and has a ripple effect across the entire value chains. Access also is foundation for development, and above a minimum level, small increases in energy use per person produce dramatic changes in the Human Development Index. So if you look at those areas where there's connection of electricity, the productivity goes higher. You find that even health-wise, people improve. They are not using, for example, biofuels or, charcoal, wood, or agricultural residues for energy that they need for cooking and warming. So you find in health centers, a number of them in Africa, 1.75 million do not have access to electricity. And that means the medicines they need to maintain at certain temperatures so that they don't go bad are not maintained. We also have businesses suffering from a lot of outages. I guess this has been seen in a number of countries, and you find that more than 30% of 30 countries experience regular outages in the continent. We don't want to mention countries, but sometimes you can look at examples that have happened elsewhere and the kind of challenges those countries face. When someone is using a generator to maintain their businesses, they don't make a lot of profits. They actually make losses. When you want to improve, you want to do value addition for agricultural produce, you want to preserve the products, you need electricity. Simply put, we need electricity to develop as a continent. And that has to be done. So any ideas that we may have, projections of where we want to be in 2063, if we can't match this with electricity generation, we will just have that as a talk. So we need to really work on ensuring that access is improved. So it's expensive to be connected in the continent. And I guess in some of the countries in the continent, you realize that even getting an electricity connection, you pay a deposit. And you're not guaranteed that connection will be in good time. It will take a lot of time sometimes, in upwards of years. And those are models that we really need to change. And those are the regulations that you find which are not working for us. So again, across the countries, you find that what, even if the neighboring countries have excess energy, it's not possible for you to access that energy. They cannot connect you because of different regulations. And to some extent also, different frequencies, different transmission or distribution voltages. Now, those are set out in most of the legislation that you find in countries like the Energy Act that you might find in a country like Kenya that says this is the voltage that we are using for transmission, which is probably not the same that you find in another country. Distribution voltages you find, for example, we still maintain 415 instead of 400 volts. We still maintain 60 hertz instead of 50. We maintain 240 for distribution purposes. Many countries have gone 200 and 220. So those are things that you find that are causing a lot of challenges in the continent. So I'll not mention about the power pools because Philip has covered that. We have, the only thing I can mention is that I had at the very initial stages, I had the honor of participating in the establishment of standards for the East African Power Pool that is championed by COMESA. So we had quite a lot of standards that were coming through to ensure that that pool can work. The countries connected in the pool can have the same voltages, can have the same kind of protection that cannot ripple across the whole region just in case of a fault. And those were very detailed standards that were done at that point in time, which I believe have assisted in the interconnection that we are seeing coming through from Ethiopia to Kenya and then going to Tanzania, which in turn gets to be connected with the South African power pool. So the benefits, when you look at having power pools, what does it help? Granted that we have the same standards, that we have harmonized the frequencies, we have harmonized the voltages. That allows the continent, if you look at the time zones, for instance, when you are in East Africa, you find that people in the far west of the continent are still, probably asleep. And so if you generate from Kenya, you're generating a lot of power, you are guaranteed that there's a market that you can sell. And that is what has been holding us back. That some countries want to generate a lot of power, they want to sell, but we have regulatory issues that do not allow us to do so. But yet, when you look at the benefits, is that you can share the infrastructure. The power flows both ways, inwards and outwards. That means you can actually receive as well as sell the power. So at the end of the day, then there's a net metering at the exchange points, which indicates who has sold more to who, or sometimes it may balance out. But that is one market that we really need to ensure that we can establish and do the trade. In integrated countries like in Europe, you'll find that the market is one. Those who are generating more can sell to the others. And in that sense, they can lower the cost of manufacturing and ensure that the whole continent does not suffer from a deficit. So this is what we need to do. And I think a lot of things depend on the regulatory aspects being harmonized in the continent. There's also the way companies are organized. In some countries, they have unbundled the system so that you have the generator is different from those who do the transmission and those who do the distribution. At the same time, we have independent power producers also being allowed to do the generation. They are more interested in doing this because it's a business. And if you are interconnected, it means they can sell power from one point. and there is no loss. Power is expensive, and you find that sometimes if you do not have enough consumption, the equipment will be just idle, or there's idle capacity that the consumers must pay for in that case to maintain the system. So really the power pools are one of the things that we need to ensure that they work. We need to ensure that the regulators are given space to make sure that they can in time harmonize their regulatory approaches, and therefore they can do business across the continent. I won't repeat what my colleague has done, but to point out in my last slide here that we are working between ARSO and AFSEC to ensure that we can start the process of harmonizing the standards, which then can be used as a basis for technical regulation. So for the regulatory uses in the continent. Now, this is important so that any regulation referring to a harmonized standard will not deviate from the regulations in the other countries. That is the fundamental basis for having regulations which are harmonized by the virtue that they use common standards. We have various technical committees. I believe AFSEC will show you the committees that they have, but currently we're having a joint effort. We have a joint technical committee which will be handling issues of renewable energy, initially targeting hydropower, wind power, and photovoltaic systems. So we look forward to sharing more from our panelists, and we also look forward to you asking questions which might improve the way we are focusing on ensuring that we can harmonize standards to assist the continent get a regulatory approach that is converging. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ruben, and thank you very much for the very informative presentations where you have highlighted the current position of Africa in terms of the electrifications and the expectations, and especially going forward 2030, 2042, what is expected, but the issues of regulatory incompatibilities, the challenges still remain. In this case, we want to thank you for that. And you have highlighted very well. We had some two questions for you on this, but like the issue of prioritizing an integrated and interconnected continental market for electricity, why it is necessary, that one is well covered. But just wanted to highlight a question for you on the issues of the key challenges in terms of this prioritization and how the common regulatory framework will really mitigate the bottlenecks around it. So if you can just highlight that in 1 minute once more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Philip. And one thing that we really need to get is that once you have a common regulatory framework, it also improves on where can I start my generation. I can do, you see, you can invest in the generation in Tunisia. If we are interconnected, that generation, whether it's considered, when it is a surplus, you can be sure that the electricity will be sold through that system all the way to Ethiopia, all the way to Kenya, all the way to South Africa. There's no boundary, you don't have anybody in that. That is what you need. Now, again, the pricing systems is what also matters a lot. Common regulatory framework will almost harmonize the pricing of electricity. Currently, if you look at the prices across the continent, in some cases, it's like a punishment when you are being connected to that electricity system. So those are some of the things that a common regulatory approach will improve on to ensure that we can have regular and predictable prices. We can have market that you can sell your electricity if it is a surplus to, and the investment environment will be conducive for more people to get interconnected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ruben. Thank you for the clear clarification and also the role of now common regulatory framework in terms of enabling the generation from any point of Africa, any corner, any country in Africa. Thank you for that. At this moment, we will go to our second panelist. And our second panelist is Engineer Marwa El-Beshri, AFSEC Senior Administrator. Yes, here we are. Engineer El-Beshri is a General Manager, Egypt Electricity Holding Company, but also associated with the AFSEC. She will be making a presentation on harmonizing regulatory frameworks and promoting an integrated, interconnected continental market for electricity in Africa to address the regulatory incompatibilities, their poor AFSEC collaboration in harmonizing their poor members' electrical or electrotechnical standards. As you can see, Engineer El-Beshri is currently seconded as Senior Administrative Specialist at the AFSEC. She is a highly accomplished energy and administration professional with over 30 years of progressive experience in the Egypt's Electricity Center, the International Development Projects and Regional Standardization Initiatives. Her career is marked by long-standing collaboration with international organizations since 1991. Beginning is her assignment at the UNDP, and the projects that she covered are highlighted. It is interesting to note that she managed a wide range of responsibilities, including administrative coordination, financial reporting, logistics, stakeholder communications. And then since 2019, she relocated to AFSEC headquarters in Cairo and has been appointed Senior Administrative Specialist, a role she continues to hold, where she's responsible for managing administrative operations, coordinating regional workshops and technical committee meetings, and especially the issues of the standards harmonization. So we are glad to have Engineer Marwa El-Beshri as our panelist today. And we now want to give her the floor to highlight some of the initiatives AFSEC is undertaking. Engineer El-Beshri, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction, and I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this webinar that is organized by ARSO. I also, as I mentioned before, thank you very much also for, I'd like to extend my gratitude for the professionals who crafted the comprehensive concept note. It's very, really, it's very, has a lot of information that was very important to all of us. We'll get started. I'll share my presentation. It's here. I'll share it now. Share one screen. Can you see the presentation? Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see it, but put it on the presentation mode.
I will. Yes, thank you. So
yes, it's okay.
We will just highlight. Okay, we will highlight only the APO and AFSEC collaboration and the joint activities, facilitating the intra-African trade in electricity through the regional power pools and electricity markets, the potential opportunities and challenges, and the role of the electrotechnical standards. This is the topic of today's webinar. So what we have done until now, we are trying to strengthen the standardization in Africa by harmonizing regulatory frameworks. It is crucial for creating and integrating an integrated and interconnected continental market for the electricity in Africa. So APOA and AFSIC collaborated to address the regulatory incompatibilities and harmonize the electrotechnical standards among the APOA members. AFSIC partnered with APOA by establishing APOA-AFSIC Scientific Committee to foster SC5 to foster the collaboration and improve the standardization process across the continent. The mandates of SC5 are mainly the jointly develop comprehensive roadmap for standardization opportunities, utilizing the standardization mapping tool, which is a spreadsheet for effective compilation and maintenance. Address the identified standards resulted from the mapping tool to be harmonized within the AFSIC technical committees. The followed steps by the APOA-AFSIC Scientific Committee 5 were first step was the survey development. AFSIC developed a survey focused on the utility standardization to identify the standards needed by APOA. Second was the survey distribution. SC5, we selected SC5 focal points, reached out to the utility companies and across the member countries they are APOA members to complete the survey and ensure the comprehensive participation. Third was create the mapping tool. The mapping tool, it's spreadsheet, Excel, to assist in harmonizing the standards according to sectors, and the transmission, distribution, government, electric generation, mini grid, general applications, and many other sectors. The mapping tool was designed to categorize the gathered standards according to the sectors and the application before streaming it to be reviewed in the next process. The last process was the result and compilation of the survey. The survey results provided a comprehensive list of standards required by APOA members, now or SC5 members, now assigned to the AFSIC technical committees for reviewing and adoption by the General Assembly. This is the roadmap for adoption. We have the survey, including the standards, input coming from the AFSIC technical committees and focal points. The focal points, they are from Benin, Mali, Mozambique, Egypt, Ghana, and Angola. These are the 6 countries that we had focal points. They managed to reach out for their utilities in their countries and managed to get the data. They compiled after that, the next step was compiling the survey into a mapping tool spreadsheet. The survey resulted to 3 identified standard categories. The first category was identified standard that has already been adopted by, already harmonized and adopted by AFSIC. Second category, identified standards are not yet adopted, but to be assigned to AFSIC technical committees and work group to review for adoption. Third are the identified standards which are not IEC standard, not IEEE, not SENELEC standards. These standards, these are the only international organization that we have signed agreement with them, that we can have standards from them to be reviewed. If the standards are not of these types, we have to find other alternatives or try to get them to be reviewed by the technical committees. The 3 categories are utility standards. The output or the results or the outcome afterwards are utility standards harmonized and adopted by AFSIC. They will be adopted by APOA members as African AFSIC standards. The 2 categories that we have mentioned before are the first category said that includes standards that have already been adopted by AFSIC, which are the regional, recognized as regional African standards. These standards are essential for ensuring the unified approach across the continent and are ready for immediate implementation by APOA members. Pending standards to be reviewed by technical committees. The second category consists of standards that have not been yet adopted by AFSIC. These standards will be assigned to the current or the existing technical committees, or maybe we can assign it to work groups from different technical committees. This process ensures that all potential standards are evaluated and necessary adjustments are made before any adoption can take place. Also, AFSIC guides that were shared with the Scientific Committee 5 in their meetings. AFSIC was developing 3 guides and the specification, and the chairs of the technical committees were attending the the SC5 meetings to share their work and get feedback from the SC5 experts. These guides are the interconnection guide of interconnection of African grid. It is published on AFSIC website, published in 2024 and was developed by Technical Committee 8. An installation of the photo number 2, the guide number 2 is the installation of the photovoltaic mini grid published in 2024 by Technical Committee 64. The third is grid integration for the renewable energy generation. It's now being drafted and it will be finalized by the end of this year. In addition to one specification, it's the smart metering system. It is the first AFSIC developed standards, and it's available in the AFSIC statutory members. In case anyone would like to have them, he can request it from the NEC, from the NEC member countries in AFSIC. Expanding the collaboration, now we're trying to enhance the training activities or initiatives. For future, these are the mandate 2026-2028 between AFSIC and the Scientific Committee 5. To include more APOA members, as we mentioned before, there are only 6 countries that have given their feedback or their information and data information, the data from the utilities. So we need to involve more APOA members by selecting additional focal points from various African countries. A collaborative training agreement to be established between APOA, ANSI, and AFSIC to conduct comprehensive training on standardization procedures and AFSIC published guide that we have mentioned earlier. This training will include the shared resources and expertise to foster the understanding of standardization practices across the region. A forum to be organized to maintain the standards mapping tool and monitor the utility standard needs. The collaboration efforts ahead. The next steps are formal adoption of identified standards and regional standards, region African standards under AFSIC, ensuring they align with the Annex 6 of the AFCFTA agreement. The ongoing collaboration among stakeholders, including APOA, AFSIC, and power pools, will be critical in monitoring and maintaining the standards mapping tool and addressing future utility standards needs. So I think thank you for this is my presentation, and if I'm ready for any questions that you may need.
Thank you very much, Engineer El-Shebri, for this very informative and very in-depth presentation that you have done, highlighting the APOA-AFSIC collaborations and also, by extension, the current ongoing collaborations with ASO to ensure that these standards also are adopted as African standards through the ASO programs. Thank you also for highlighting the initiatives that AFSIC has taken. We have taken note of the surveys that you are doing to ensure that the standards address the needs of the African electrification and especially the single electricity market for African trade. The mapping tool that you are using, the setting up of the scientific committee, because standardization is mostly science or scientific based. So thank you very much. We have highlighted, but just a few questions because Also, we've seen you have addressed some of the key issues that we highlighted, but just in a small summary, what do you consider the key challenges associated with this different regulatory framework, and that forms your opinion of always doing the surveys, the mapping tool? And also, if you can highlight the level of adoption of these standards that have been done by AFSEC, by the APOA members, are there challenges? Are they being adopted, and are they being utilized? Thank you very much once more.
Okay. Regarding the regulatories, unfortunately, regulatory bodies, we don't have any of them available in our technical committees. We wish that we could have experts joining our technical committees to involve in the process of standardization. This is one of the challenges that we have. This is the main, and also from the REX, we don't have, we're trying to seek experts, but up till now, we'll try to do our best to involve them more. For the second question, for APOA, can you say it again? I mean, for APOA, there's no challenges. We have many standards have the list. The results is a number of standards that maybe half of these standards are already adopted by AFSEC. So we have sent it to APOA for not to approve, to be informed that these are African regional standards. The remaining standards are assigned to the technical committees, and it's an ongoing process. And up till now, there's no challenges with APOA. We're doing fine. We hope that the same will be with ARSO. We have a joint committee now, and we're trying to do our best to follow the steps that we have done already with APOA.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And that one highlights the importance of doing the surveys, the doing of the mapping standards tool, the importance of the mapping tool, so that the standards that are developed the standards development and harmonization are derived by the demand that is coming from the utilizers themselves. I think that one is an important lesson that also we are learning, so that they are easily adopted, because when the participation of the industry in the standardization process is high, then the adoption is also high. So those are lessons that we also continue to learn, and those are the approaches also that we continue to do here also at ARSO. Thank you very much once again for highlighting the initiatives by AFSEC and also by the APOA members, and we look forward to continued collaborations that we already initiate. Let us go to the third presenter and our panelist, Mr. Martin Copper, engineer, who is a middle manager in the Systems Operation Planning Department with ESCOM South Africa, and by extension, Southern African Power Pool. He will give us a presentation and discussion on electricity for Africa, facilitating trade in electricity and optimizing generation and flow through regional power pools like Southern African Power Pool, opportunities, regulatory barriers, and need for harmonized regulatory standards. Looking at the approach of ESCOM in this place, Mr. Copper, having completed his studies in 1994, he joined ESCOM South Africa in the Protection, Telecommunications, and Metering Business Unit, July 1995, as an engineer in training, and has been working with ESCOM since then. From November 2007 to date, he has been working as middle manager in the Systems Operation Planning Department, being responsible for providing short-term reliability planning service and operational support to national control and other custom other customers to enhance safe operation and quality supply of ESCOM network and South African grid. He has done a lot in this capacity. Then in his career at ESCOM, he has held different positions. Like you can see in 1996, he was protection engineer and responsible for many responsibilities. 1999, he was appointed senior protection engineer. And in November 2003, he joined transmission system operational performance. So mostly you see, as much as he's a professional, he's also a handsman and understands the electricity world of Africa from the ESCOM's point of view and management and programs. He was promoted to chief engineer position in 2006. Mr. Copper has been involved in many projects within the ESCOM as well as externally. One of his major external projects was the protection grading exercise for Middleburg, as highlighted. He also performed the simulation study and protection settings calculations towards South African incineration plant in Singapore. So I think this is a high wealth of information and knowledge that we want to hear from Mr. Martin, and we will give him the opportunity to make his presentation and contributions. Mr. Martin, you are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will share my presentation. Tell me if you see it. Are you able to see my presentation?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Sure. This side of the business, we use 2 teams. Now,
Coming on. It's coming.
Is it coming up? Okay, can you see it?
Yes, now you can put it in presentation mode.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good. You're good to go.
All right. Thank you very much. Welcome everyone. This in the contents, this is what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the regulatory environment of power pools opportunities, challenges, and performance action plans that we have, and will conclude. As an introduction, the reliable and sustainable access to affordable electricity power in energy market in the continental power pools is key in facilitating growth. And this is, what has been said. But most utilities are seeing a rapid change in terms of generation technologies and operating models due to requirements for cleaner primary energy resources. We're moving more into the inverter-based space, and I will explain why I'm mentioning that. Although cleaner, the inverter-based resources, they introduce complexities in the network operations when compared to the conventional large asynchronous machines. Then there will be a requirement now for more ancillary services products such as reserves inertia as well as reactive power to make sure that the system is still stable and is reliable. Now another point that is major is that we know that we have interconnectors, but most of the interconnectors that we have between areas, these are weak. And as a result, they also complicate the way we operate the system. In terms of the regulatory environment, the electricity market in our power pools, is transforming from a vertical integrated model to multi-market models with the introduction of private sector participants due to the unbundling from regulation authorities. This we see in a number of areas, in a number of regions where we have private sector coming into play, but also the we're changing it from the vertical integrated model, and that now will also be, we'll have to make sure that we still keep, the system stable and reliable. And there's also, the complexity that is brought by, on both operational and electricity trading sphere, and thus require strong regulations and standards to support this transformation and ensure that the interconnected network are operated in a safe, reliable, and secure manner. That's basically what this point is saying we need these regulations and standards to make sure that we have harmonized standards to make sure that we are still able to operate it in a safe and reliable manner. The international electrotechnical standards should be used as basis to harmonize grid codes. Each area, will have its own grid code, but, we'll need to make sure that those codes are based on the international electrotechnical standards from different regions. And then what I'm also saying is that, they should support the introduction of, technology and evolution to the market, to the electricity market. With that, these standards should actually, chart way and make sure that, our codes are able now to talk to this evolution, and also to make sure that the introduction of new technologies is also covered. And then the common and flexible regulatory framework enables, the power pools operating members to operate the integrated power system network safely and securely, considering the performance requirements of respective regional grid codes. This is basically what I'm saying is that, but in our case, which is the Southern African Power Pool, there is an operating guideline document that sets down the operating requirements as well as the performance criteria for all member utilities. And this is the document that we use and to check ourselves and also to check each other to say, are we now ensuring that we because now the importance of the IPS is that it's good to be interconnected, but one area should not now pose risks to another area. Now this operating guideline addresses that for us. Now, the opportunities, if with the power pools, we can actually see, if you look at, the International Power Exchange, and I think this was mentioned, I have heard it was mentioned before. And in the case of international grid synchronization, neighboring countries can exchange electricity efficiently, and they can, promote energy security, cooperation, and economic benefits through cross-border power system. Because now you will find that if you look at the peak demands, some have a deficit, but some will have an excess. If we are connected, we'll be able to actually balance it out. And also, the electricity can be transmitted from areas with surplus power during low demand hours to regions with higher demand during peak hours, ensuring a stable power supply. I heard that, if you look at the West Coast and the East Coast, they've got different peaking times, and, while others are sleeping, others are actually working. We can actually utilize that. And also, the energy market development, synchronized grids often support the development of energy markets, allowing for competitive pricing and efficient allocation of resources. That's that. And also another opportunity, economic benefits. Grid synchronization can lead to cost saving by reducing the need for excess capacity, lowering operational cost, and providing access to cheaper sources of electricity. That's another one. And then, also there's also the increased, if you look at the increased grid capacity by connecting and synchronizing multiple grids, the overall capacity of the power system can be increased. This can support, economic growth and accommodate the growing demand in Africa in this case. But now this also comes with its own challenges. You remember I mentioned in my introduction that normally when you look at the areas, you've got a link. The link between them is weak. You might find out that there is one line between the two, but now there is this concept of a small signal stability that may come. It may arise because of that. Due to weak interconnection between member utilities, small signal stability of the power system could occur, typically due to small variation in generation and loads. And now, if you look at the picture on my right, you can actually see that if you have two systems and they are linked by a weak link, it's more like you're having two meshes and a spring between them. And now when one moves, there will be oscillations between the two. But because those happen every time, there is a change in generation or the change in load, the load trips or the generation trips and so on, the oscillations will always be there. And now if you look at the modes of oscillations, this is basically how we would like to dampen them. When they happen, we should have enough load or enough damping for them to be damped out. But if not, we should actually have the power system stabilizers set in your generators to make sure that they damp them. Because if they are left undamped, they could grow and the whole system will break down and you'll have a blackout. And that's basically one of the challenges. And this is not the only challenge, but this is the major one that we normally experience with the weak link. That is why the investment should also look at how do we now strengthen the link between the areas, the control areas, between the utilities, to make sure that we mitigate this risk. Now, I've actually put a plan, say maybe the performance action plan. We say each African utility has its own transmission system planning standard, and the generation adequacy standard detailing the requirements for ensuring system adequacy. These are done obviously to make sure that we keep, we know that what will be the load forecast, and then we ensure that the network is built to address that, and also the generation is brought to make sure that we don't have a deficit. But now, since because of the financial implications of that, and the constraints, the economical constraints, you might find out that you will get to situation where these risks, there is violation of the code, because this is basically coming from the grid code. But if it is done like that, it needs to be assessed, and we also need to make sure that we put operational mitigation solutions to address those. And also review also, because we are connected, we need to make sure that we review performance of the system protection schemes on the power pool interconnection, and harmonize their settings. Make sure that when settings are done, there's an agreement. We sit together and we make sure that we actually harmonize those settings. And there's also I think the automatic under frequency load shedding schemes, which is the system protection schemes. They should also be done in such a way that there is some coordination between the two. They need to be reviewed, and power pools will have to make sure that those are also properly coordinated, because you don't want one area to impact another area. Say maybe they trip before the other area, and now the other area now will start having frequency issues. And also, we need also to identify the gaps in the operating guideline. Remember, I mentioned that we have a guideline, but this guideline it needs to now include clauses that caters for inverter based resources that we are currently putting. Also, to facilitate this whole thing of special protection schemes that I've just mentioned, to make sure that this is addressed, not only things that we know frequent, but we have the schemes addressed in the operating guideline, and also the inverter based resources, the impact of them onto the system, and making sure that the models are checked, and before they install them, there is an exercise to make sure that they will do what they are planned to do. In conclusion, I'll say, high penetration of inverter-based resources, as well as introduction of energy markets, would increase the requirement for the ancillary services products to ensure stability and flexibility of the IPS. In this case, you will have to keep more reserves to make sure that in a case where the sun is not shining, the wind is not blowing, or at least now you can still be able to provide a power to the customers, and that you can do by making a plan and making sure that you hold enough ancillary services, and also you have a system that is flexible enough to be able to deal with those conditions. And also, I think I've mentioned, the strengthening of interconnecting circuits to improve the stability of the IPS, and also to allow high transfer limits and increase power access to more customers. We are dealing sometimes with the weather conditions where there's a drought, and probably some of the areas are reliant on hydros, and if you have such conditions, you can still be able to ship power, say maybe from areas where there is no drought, or from areas where they're using different technology, and to make sure that you also cover ourselves. And now that will also be something that we should look at. The strengthening of the interconnectors, I think for me, it's very important, and it's something that we should be looking at. And also, this will also increase, the local and foreign investment interest in the continent. If the investors know that we have a power that is reliable and something that they can use, they will invest in the country, and they will make sure that we create jobs and growth in the continent based on the power that we'll have. And that now it helps with the interconnected systems, to make sure that when we grow as a continent, not as one area of the continent. But that's basically my point. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much also for the high-level presentation that you have made, and very informative, and also highlighting what happens within the South African power pool. We were glad to note the capacities of the power pool, the benefits that are accruing from the South African power pool, including the synchronized grids, the grid capacity, the international power exchange, then the issue of ability to supply this electricity to different areas where there could be lack of electricity, this surplus. And also the fact that there is need to base these regulatory frameworks to the international best practices, highlighting the IEC standards as the benchmark and as the basis. Also, we have seen the challenges of technology in the power pools and in the transmissions. And basically, this one has addressed the issues also that we had aligned arising from your presentation, including key challenges associated with electricity generations and flow in Africa that is now highlighted, and why the power pools like the Southern African power pool remain strategic in resolving the electricity deficiency in Africa. But just out of curiosity, also for the sake of the participants here, we are looking at opportunity of creating intra-African electricity trade and market. And given the experience of Southern African power pool, currently, do you have engagement with the extra power pools like the East Africa, the one at the ECOWAS level, the Northern? What is the level of cooperation currently? Do you tap into their resources? Do they tap into your resources? Or you are just still exclusively within South Africa? And what could be the issues, given that the FCFTA gives us opportunity to move outside of our power pools and trade electricity? Thank you. And already ASO and AFSEC are doing tremendous work in harmonizing the regulatory framework to ease that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I actually even have colleagues from SEP CC on call. Yeah, but a lot of work is actually looking at ensuring that, because you, as part of the Southern African power pool, you have a number of countries which have, you know, that collaboration, and then there is power flowing from because if you look at South Africa, you know, we have excess power in some instances, but you there was a time where, you know, we had to actually ship power to the northern countries, but the limitation was on the link, and, you know, we had the transfer link limit that was actually stopping us from pushing more power, even though I think there was more to push. But now, hence I say, you know, the exercises, what is important is that we normally sit as a power pool, and we do these assessments, we do these calculations, and we agree on the transfer limits, we agree on, you know, the performance criteria, and make sure that, you know, when we start operating, and if, you know, other areas, you know, don't keep to their part of the contract, you know, they are also a punitive kind of penalties that are given to different role players. But yeah, there is, but I'm not sure about say maybe us as a power pool communicating now to other power, the Eastern and the Western. I don't think that part is there, but as a region, as SADC, we actually are working together very well.
Thank you very much once more, Mr. Martin, for the highlights, and thank you very much for creating that opportunities for the delegates and experts now to get prepared for the next presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to have you. Our next presentation, and which also will help us understand why we need to do trade within and among the power pools, what the African Union itself has done based on that presentation that and the contributions that we have heard from South Africa, from Mr. Martin. How can these power pools speak together? What is the framework at the continental level? And that's why we are glad to have Mr. Shehu Ibrahim Khalil, who is working with the African Union Commission as Senior Energy Policy and Strategy Expert, and will be talking to us on the topic towards the African Single Electricity Market, AFSEM, and the regional regulatory strengthening, and the Mission 300 and AFSEM CMP alignments. Mr. Khalil is sustainable energy and energy efficiency expert with about 20 years experience in sustainable energy assess, projects management, energy policy, strategy and regulatory framework, monitoring and evaluation of clean energy programs, electricity market formulation, and that one is of key interest to us also here, and planning, including energy investment business plan developments in the sub-Saharan Africa, but also within Africa. Currently, it's working with AUCDI under the EU TF mission for the harmonization of African single market electricity market regulatory framework. He has over 20 years, or over the 20 period years, he works as consultant with the Nigerian government energy sector at different levels. Khalil has been consultant with international financing institutions, the FDB, the WB, the FC, IFC, and the development partners like the GIZ, USAID, JICA, DFID, in the field of sustainable energy programs and projects across African continent. He actively partake in various sustainable energy projects and initiatives in Africa, as highlighted, including in the West Africa, South and East Africa, and the Desert to Power initiatives, Power Africa, Africa Bio Energy Program, the ROGEP, and the others. He has project experience over 22 countries in the sub-Saharan Africa, working for government, utilities, and in fact, development organizations and the private and clean energy developers. He holds a Bachelor of Engineering, Electrical, and Masters of Science on Strategic Planning. He's senior member of Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, that is IEE, and member of International Solar Energy Society. Professional membership is also included, including the IEE, IE Power and Energy Society, and the European Energy Center, the International Renewable Energy, IRENA, and also International Solar Energy. Shehu now presents the African vision for now tapping power all over Africa, and also tapping what the power pools can do through the frameworks that the African Union, our apex body in terms of policy, is doing, and with recently just 2024 adopting the same. So Shehu Ibrahim, we open the floor for you for the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Well, I think I need to share my screen.
Kindly.
Okay. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's coming, it's loading.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, we confirm.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, of course, good afternoon. Distinguished colleagues, I'm actually honored to participate in this 58 ARSO webinar series on a regulatory environment for electricity markets in Africa. Well, of course, as already said by previous panelists and the presenter, well, our focus today will be on regulatory environment for electricity market. Of course, my presentation will be on Africa single electricity market as it was as you can see. The sub-theme is toward the Africa single electricity market and regional regulatory standing, including Mission 300 and AFSEM CMP alignment. Of course, it is, I can say, a critical role in advancing regulatory strengthening and aligning with initiatives such as the Mission 300 and Continental Power System Master Plan, basically, which is the main entities or components that we are working together with the partners to ensure that the African continent achieves the needed energy access goal. Of course, my presentation, of course, the first slide will be on the fragmentation to integration. I just caption it from fragmentation to integration. In 2013, the African Union Commission adopted the Agenda 2063. And one of the aspirations of the Agenda 2063 is regional integration. And as part of that, several flagship initiatives or projects were introduced and adopted as part of the main tools to achieve the Agenda 2063. The Africa Single Electricity Market is one of these flagship projects. So initially, what's actually comes into maybe I should go a bit to give a bit of background on actually how the AFSEM come into being. In 2015, harmonization of policy, the AU member states through their ministers of energy during the sub-technical committee on energy gives a mandate to African Union Commission to harmonize the fragmented policies and regulatory frameworks for African electricity market. We have different, each region, each country has its own different policy and a regulatory framework. So the mandate was given. So the process started in 2015, and it was concluded in 2017. The harmonized policies and regulatory framework was submitted to the member states through the STC, which was adopted in 2017. The action plan, of course, provide the means, all the necessary strategies to harmonize all these policies to become a single policy that can be used to establish a single and integrated market across the country. So in 2019, the same ministers gave a mandate to the African Union Commission, the African Union Development Agency, the African Development Bank to formulate the Africa Single Electricity Market and develop the Continental Power System Master Plan. The Africa Single Electricity Market Policy and Roadmap and the governance structure was developed and formulated and submitted to the African Union Summit of the Head of State in 2021, which leads to the implementation of AFSEM. Launch of AFSEM in 2021, while the AUD and EPAD, that's AUD and EPAD, were developing the Continental Power System Master Plan. This is just a brief background of how the AFSEM comes into being. So after that, various strategic technical working documents, the action plan of Africa Single Electricity Market were developed from 2021 to 2024, which all were adopted by the Summit of the Head of States. Now we've started the implementation of AFSEM in the last quarter of 2024. So now going into my presentation, of course, this slide is, as I said, is from fragmentation to integration. Of course, we've seen, sorry, I'm coming. As I said earlier, we have fragmented markets. So AFSEM, when it comes, the policy paper and the roadmap developed gave AFSEM through AFSEM enables the integration of all those markets so that we can have a harmonized rules for continental power trading, as well as a means to attract investment by making an enabling environment more conducive for investors, as well as also coordinating the grid development through the continental power system master plan, so that we can maybe have the affordable and reliable electricity, which is the one of the main strategic objective of the Africa single electricity market. So, the main task ahead of AFSEM is to ensure that we have a continental regulatory framework, which will be the main guide on the main regulatory aspect of the Africa single electricity market. So regulator is one of the forming a regulator. We plan to have like a continental regulator. That's first, which is one of the initial task that was carried out after the formulation of policy. Yeah, it is. With regards to regulator, of course, regulator is virtually at the heart of functional electricity market. Of course, we adopt a progressive establishment of regulatory framework to ensure fairness and often access to electricity network, also to build trust among the stakeholders and restore confidence as well to the investors, as well as promoting the private sector participation within the African and energy sector. So this one issue that we've started working on. Of course, the process, since, as I said, we've just started implementation of AFSEM. We plan to have a continental regulator. Initially, there was a recommendation to make AFUR the continental regulator for the Africa single electricity market. So we are working toward that. Actually, we have many initiatives now with AFUR, and we are working to see if AFUR can be adopted as the continental regulator. Then moving forward, then okay. So this this slide give a complete picture of what Africa single electricity market is. We have 4 segments toward the implementation of AFSEM. The first one is the coordination and administration, which includes the monitoring. We have an AFSEM governance structure, which was adopted by the Summit of the Head of State in 2021. This AFSEM governance structure includes the Strategic Planning Coordination Unit, the AFSEM Electricity Forum, the AFSEM High-Level Technical Oversight Committee, and the AFSEM Technical Working Groups. The Strategic Planning Coordination Unit is the main is the heart of or main coordination entity of the Africa single electricity market, which will be situated in the African Union Commission Department of Infrastructure and Energy. Electricity Forum is a previous forum of the power pools, which is being coordinated by by APUA. Then we have the AFSEM Oversight Committee, which has been constituted recently, which will be headed by one of the presidency of this high-level oversight committee will be co-chaired by the African Union Commission and one of the regional economic communities. The regional economic communities will be rotating, maybe after every yearly. Then the technical working groups, we have about 5 technical working groups on policies, on investments, on renewable energy, on energy efficiencies, all of them. This is part of the governance structure, which is being currently is being formulated or is being established. So then after that, having that, then Then next we move to regional and national regulatory and institutional strengthening. We know that we have regional regulatory associations. Recently, IRB has been constituted as or has been recognized or adopted as an authorized regional regulator for East African power pool. Also, we have ERERA, which is the authorized regional regulator for the West African power pool. So our aim here is to ensure that all the other power pools have a functional regional regulatory authority. So in this regard, we've started working. We've started working with RERA to support the RERA transitioning to be an authorized power pool for the South African power pool. An authorized regulator for the South African power pool. Also, we are supporting IRB, which is now the authorized regulator for East African power pool, to ensure that they have all the necessary framework that will help or assist them to function or to regulate the East African power market, which is being now recently they are on the process of launching the day-ahead market as well. Apart from that, we are in discussion. We have several meetings with the Central African Power Pool to enhance the capacity of the newly formed regional regulatory authority for the Central African Power Pool. For the North African Power Pool, we still have some issues to discuss with the COMELEC, which is in process. Then the next segment is development of and operation of regional power markets, as well as what we've been working with the power pools to ensure that they have pool regional regulatory authority, which are independent. We are working with the power pools as well with regards to development of the needed market rules and trading platforms. We have various resources to support the power pools. We've been working currently. We've been discussing with the East African Power Pool on how to support them to have all the needed market rules, the grid codes, all the trading platforms available, as well as the South African Power Pool. We have 3 meetings with the South African Power Pool as well as the Central African Power Pool, to ensure that yes, they have all the needed trading platforms and regional codes ready, available to operate as a regional to operate the regional power market, so that they can be ready for AFSEM, which has the aim to integrate the power pools to become a continental market. Then we have other initiatives, strategies, which include grid investments, framework development, which we are currently working on other strategies that will support the regional power markets, as maybe one of Mr. Martin said. Then there is need for ancillary services. Of course, we are working together with AUD and FATUS and I think get transformed to see how we can to develop some electricity market, renewable energy market, ancillary services, and carbon market piloting with the South African Power Pool from the beginning. So this slides also just depicts actually what I just said. Initially, this is the African. We work with regional economic communities always in this. AFSEM is just to support these activities. Development of regional regulatory instrument for market operations, which include establishment of functional bodies, regional and national regulatory authorities, development and of necessary market and technical documentations, harmonization of cross-border transaction for harmonized document for cross-border transactions, development. Develop harmonized transmission tariff methodologies, build regulatory capacity for current and next stage of markets, then develop trading platforms for future and forward markets, as well as then develop ancillary services, markets, and associated pricing. This actually the work we're doing with the power pools. As I said earlier, of course, if you look at we look here, we have WAP. They already have they have a regulator. SAF, RERA is being transitioned. I think there are some little approvals needed from SADC to finalize the transition of RERA to SARERA to support as a regulator for South African Power Pool. For IRB has been, of course, adopted at the independent regulator for the Eastern African Power Pool. For COMELEC and Central African Power Pool, as you can see, we are still working toward that. Sorry. Then we still support the work to establish independent and national regulatory authorities. Of course, this work we're doing is with the regional institutions. Of course, they are the ones who work with the member states. So they are the ones who knows the capacity of the member state when it comes to regulation. So we are working together with them to identify the countries that needs immediate supports to ensure that they have established and a standard. They've developed a standard regulatory framework and established a national regulatory authority. So, so of course, this is how this like is the theory of change on what we normally do. Of course, each power pools we intend to ensure that based on AFSEM, it has an independent regulatory authority. Under this, we have to know if there is independent regulatory authority, whether the regulator is properly constituted and functioning. As I said, we have regional regulatory associations, which are yet to be fully constituted by the member state. Some of them is, as I said, is the process that we are working with RERA to support them to transition to a fully constituted regulatory body. Then under if they are fully constituted, then we have to ensure that they've established a functional regional agencies, development and approval of regional regulatory instrument, development of and approval of national regulatory framework. These are some of the tasks that we have been working with them. And of course, whether a fully functional regional regulatory authority has been established. So this is actually what we've been doing with the regional institutions to ensure that they have a functional regulatory framework and a well-developed regulatory framework and well-established regional regulatory authority. So I think maybe this part is actually give a bit of brief on actually what AFSEM is doing with regards to maybe supporting the together with the Continental Power System Master Plan on regional and continental integration. So in this regard, AFSEM always assess the legal regulatory framework target. So we have maybe in the next part of the maybe presentation, you will see apart from supporting the regional institutions to strengthen their capacity with regards to regulations, we plan to work with the Continental Power System Master Plan because of the CMP already identified various transmission and generation projects, which were some of them currently being on the pre-feasibility stage. So in that regards, we work with the AUD and EPAD on this regard with the power pools to look at all those projects, interconnectors, maybe interconnectors, and see where there is need for improvement or strengthen the regulatory framework, particularly within the member countries. Let's take example, Zambia, Tanzania, Kenya interconnector. Then what we plan to do is to look at these three countries. If there is any regulatory maybe gap that will hinder the achievement or the goals of maybe realizing that particular interconnector project. So this is what AFSEM is doing on the other segment. Then finally, the Mission 300 alignment with AFSEM and CMP. Yeah, the objectives of both Mission 300 and AFSEM and CMP are virtually I can't say, but they are the same. Of course, one of the strategic objectives is to accelerate power infrastructure, which is what we've been doing within the Continental Power System Master Plan, to expand the generation, transmission, and distribution, so that the grids can be optimized to enable the cross-border electricity trading. Also, one of the objectives of both is to enhance market integration, so that through the unified continental market. This will help in strengthening the power pools by harmonizing the grid codes and boost the cross-border electricity trade. Of course, the other objective is to scale up distributed renewable energy resources, of course, by increasing the renewable energy integration into the energy mix in the continent. This will help in expanding the off-grid and on-grid solutions for more resilient energy future. They mobilize private sector. Of course, the main aims of having a well-functional and well-established regulatory framework is to ensure that investors and private sector participants have a conducive atmosphere to come and invest into the sector. So all the strategic objective, both AFSEM and Mission 300, also consider this as one of the most important things. And finally, to ensure that utility are sustainable and well, of course, leverage the technology as well, which is one of which will enhance the energy security, affordability in the market. So I think this is virtually end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shehu. And I think this one deserved to be the last because, as you can see, it's very informative. It has really answered most of the questions related to what the first presenter, Mr. Ruben Gisore, the second presenter, El Shebri, and the third presenter, Martin, presented on the challenges that were highlighted, the opportunities within it, and also the way to go and the way forward, which his presentation, Shehu's presentation, has really done a lot of service to the issues arising from the three presentations that were done. And also the journey, the efforts that the African Union is making to ensure that we have African single electricity market. You remember when Martin presented, we were asking how much are we trading within the power pools? And then we realized that one of the challenges is the regulatory framework. We also, when Mr. Ruben presented and when Ms. Engineer El Shabri also presented, the issue of different regulatory environment in terms of standards and conformity assessments were glaring, and then the initiatives that they are taking and which are also addressing these issues. But with this roadmap under AFSEM and the CMP and the Mission 300, I think the African Union is on top of this, and you can see the efforts that has been taken since 2024. We are just 2 years within, and there's a lot that has been done, and the roadmap is very clear. And I think it was a pleasure to have Mr. Shehu presenting. She's answered all that we had in the concerns about the opportunities under the FCFTA, the current trading generation and productions that we have, and the trends in the Africa electricity market that has also been done by the others. But just in terms of the FCFTA, if you can just highlight it, one of the greatest opportunity within the FCFTA to ensure that the AFSEM is fully finalized and that we will succeed in terms of policy framework. Only that within the FCFTA.
Okay, thank you. Yes, well, Exactly. AFSEM has been, of course, formulated based on AFCFTA, because of AFCFTA has been the main, let's say, stem. Well, AFSEM had been part of the so of course there is not only a synergy. Of course, AFCFTA provides the continental trade framework, while AFSEM builds the largest single electricity market in the world, serving as a backbone for industrial competitiveness. So, of course, integrated power market reduces costs, increases, but as I said, part of the strategies that we are working under AFSEM to develop is to develop a regional renewable energy technology manufacturing and trading strategy, which is one of the main tasks now ahead of Africa's single electricity market. Of course, this has been embedded to support the Africa continental free trade area because it is a must. We have the needed critical mineral resources in the continent, so it's an opportunity for us to see how we can manufacture some of these renewable energy technology components and how we can trade them, which is a very big opportunity for AFCFTA. So it is important. This strategy, of course, will focus on localizing manufacturing as well as I said, particularly for solar panels, wind turbines, batteries, transformers, as well as smart meters, which is a very good addition to your FCFTA strategies. And of course, it will also, this opportunity will also open an intra-African trade in clean energy technologies, which will also, of course, reduce import dependence from outside the continent and will enhance the capacity of Africa to export what we've manufactured, which is also an addition to AFCFTA. Of course, then, as I said, the manufacturing parts will enhance the regional industrial hubs because of it. This will be tied to the abundant critical mineral resources we have, which we have like cobalt, lithium, and rare earth metals, which we have them in abundance across the DRC and Zambia. So, of course, by linking this renewable energy industrialization with AFCFTA, of course, Africa's will position itself not only as a consumer, but as a global supplier to clean energy technology, which is a very good addition to AFCFTA. So I think this is a bit of what I can see. Of course, there are a lot because of the, as I said, with apps empowering AFCFTA, Africa can lower electricity costs, enabling cross-border trade as well as. So all these are being implemented or developed to ensure that AFCA operate at large scale. So AFCFTA, of course, has a lot of potential through the Africa single electricity market. Thank you, Mr. Philip.
Thank you once more, Mr. Shehu, for that explanation and the discussions thereof that you have highlighted. The opportunities within are great. And I think we are just on time, and I've not seen a lot, even in the terms of questions on the chat box. And I think it has been a great opportunity to have the panelists and the participants. We have been working together, and this one has been a tremendous opportunity to discuss the issues of electricity in Africa. And you have seen that there is a great opportunity. And I like what Mr. Ruben said in the first place, that without electricity, even our industrialization prospects will not go far. So with the AFSEC presentation, the issue of the power pools, and the issue of now the AFSEM and the CMP and Mission 300, I think the realization and policy initiatives are in line with the FCFTA and the Agenda 2063 where we want to be. And I think with this now, we will continue just briefly, but before then, just giving the panelists just 1 second just to do a takeaway on this webinar because we are finalizing on this plenary session. I'll start with Mr. Ruben, just a small takeaway on this way forward, just within a second.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Philip. And my take is that, yes, we have a lot of good intentions. We have a lot of good prospects. But we need to ensure that our regulations work for us. We need to ensure that we align our regulations to the needs of the continent so that we are able to trade in electricity, looking at the continent and ensuring that we can have not just grids connected, but manufacturing happening in the continent. So electricity holds the key to our industrialization, and there's no way we can avoid generating, but also harmonizing the standards and utilizing those standards for anything that we come up with. I know in those grid codes that have been done in many countries, sometimes people still go out of their way not to use the standards, but they need to use the standards so that we can actually have something that is common and compatible and efficient. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ruben. Engineer El-Beshri, your takeaway message, please.
What I want to say is I'm totally with Mr. Ruben for what he has just said, because enforcement of the standard is much more important than developing it. So what's important is to carry on to use the standards and not only develop it without. So there has to be regulations that to enforce this issue, the enforcement of the standards to be used. I don't know how, but there has to be means. But thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for all the speakers for the comprehensive presentations that they have done. And it's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm glad that I was one of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Beshri. Mr. Martin.
Yeah, my takeaway will be, we need to invest in the transmission system. It's very important. If we can unlock, that, we'll still be able to, to ship power from everywhere in the world to wherever it needs to go. But transmission systems, let's invest as a continent and make sure that we do that. And also thanking everyone for the opportunity. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. And finally, Mr. Shehu.
Thank you, Mr. Philip. Yeah, my one is a bit short. I think is as I said by Mr. Ruben, it is important to ensure that we have a robust regulation, a well-established framework, and a functional regulatory authorities to ensure, because of this is the only way that we can have that we can win the investors' confidence. To ensure that they come and invest on the electricity infrastructure in the continent. So I think a regulatory aspect and will be one of the major issues to look at to ensure that we have the needed enabling environment in the sector to attract the needed financing and investment so that we can develop our energy sector in the continent. That's my take. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in the interest of time, now, if we just highlight the 59th, the next webinar session, Ms. Jeruto, if you go up the slide before. Yes, this one will be our 59th webinar session. We have discussed it a bit, the e-mobility in Africa, the transition and those opportunities, but the theme will be e-mobility for the African economies and trade, the Africa's electric promise, positive implications of e-mobility, transformative shift, and the role of standardization and government regulatory policies to leverage its huge potential. And we are glad that this one is also touching even the rural population, where we can have our SMEs, our women SMEs enjoying the capacity of the e-mobility within the rural area, even if it means transporting their products to the market, and also in terms of transportation and all that. So we welcome you, we notify you and welcome you. We'll continue to engage so that we see ourselves from this electricity, then how do we capture the e-mobility in Africa and the potentials to move forward in terms of industrialization, sustainable development, and of course the need for a common regulatory framework with respect to standardization, the government regulatory policies, the conformity assessment. Once more, we want to thank you very much for those who got the opportunity to be with us throughout this session. And I think it has been a wonderful moment, and we thank you very much. At this particular moment, those who are able to, for the kind of memory that we will associate with this, we need to have our videos, our cameras on so that we can take a memorable picture, so that we commemorate this day that we discussed the need for a single African electricity market and the initiatives that are being undertaken currently. So I encourage all of you who are able to put their cameras on, to put the cameras on. And we want to ensure the participants that we will share the presentations, all of them, because I've seen a lot of interest also being highlighted. We will share the presentations. Thank you once more also on behalf of our Secretary General, Dr. Hermogen Sengemana, for always responding to our invitations and notifications to discuss the African development agenda, the role of standardization, which is our key mandate, and also working with different sectors of the economies, like the sectors in electricity, to ensure that we get our industrialization and sustainable development. We want to thank our key organizations like the African Union, UNECA, UNIDO, the REX, for normally standing with us in terms of highlighting the policy initiatives that the continent is making to ensure that we move in the same direction from the beginning of the 1960s, as we highlighted up to now. Thank you very much. And the ICT team, if you can tell us that it is okay, a memorable picture.
Yes, it is okay, Mr. Philip.
Thank you very much. And we thank you. I've seen Aisan, I've seen Dr. Oswald. Thank you very much. Thank you. We recognize your participation. Thank you all. Thank you. And that is on behalf of our Secretary General, Dr. Hermogen Sengemana. Thank you.